Hey kids, you want to see a dead franchise? You want to see another one? Here's one more! Well, enough of that. You see the title? You see the thumbnail. I ain't here to twiddle my thumbs. I'm here to give you bunch of idiots my ideas for an all-new, all-different reimagining of the Ben 10 franchise. Much like the reboot, but in the opposite direction, for a different medium, for a different yet massively overlapping audience. Comic books. And don't fret, I already know what you're saying. I can read your mind, people. Dude, why would we want a comic when instead we could get a cartoon? Unto that, I say! You know, comics are pretty cool, you know. Plus, there's always the chance that it could be adapted into a cartoon later. You know, like Invincible. Like, listen, y'all don't understand. It's made for it. Perfect, even. Trust me, as we get into the how I'm going to adapt this show into a comic, you'll understand. It'll all just suddenly click to you like it did me. Well, first off, we're going back to the basics. A reimagined origin story for new and old generations of fans alike. So in the same vein of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, we're going to keep some of the iconic aspects of the origin, while switching up what we need to for this new iteration. First stop in the change station, we have Ben himself. In this story, we're not starting off with the 10-year-old Ben. We're starting off at the ripe age of 16. A cocky teenager dealing with issues in the good old small town of Bellwood. One who has lived his life without the Omnitrix, aliens, or anything weird happening to him. Smartass, bit of a prankster, seemingly coasting through life with no real ambitions. The kind of guy that annoy you in real life, and maybe just a tiny bit in the comic. Maybe just a bit. Like a little bit. I'm sorry, it's Ben 10! He has to annoy you sometimes. Now, it's the last day of school for the 16-year-old Ben. He's fidgeting, constantly looking up at the clock. He cannot control his ADHD. The teacher rambles on and on about this and that before finally, the bell rings. Ben, without a second thought to the teacher, races outside the school. Why? Because it's finally time for his big summer vacation with his good old Grandpa Max. Traveling the country in the classic Rust Bucket RV, seeing everything that the USA, and even beyond, has to offer. Now, Grandpa Max, no changes, literally perfect. How can you improve upon perfection? You can't. So look upon this Grandpa Max and rejoice, for he is still the Grandpa Max we all know and love. And of course, we can't have this iconic summer vacation without everyone's favorite red-headed cousin, Gwendolyn Tennyson. Again, not many changes are needed. Someone who has an easy time connecting with people on a personal level, a social butterfly with confidence and book smarts. An honor student that is literally everything that Ben is not. On the outside, at least. She has her life planned out. She is on the fast track to success. A somebody in society by every measure imaginable. So I'm well aware of the criticism against Ben and Gwen's relationship in the original series. How their bickering got grating sometimes, it was often mean-spirited with no real reason to be. Yeah, we're going with that relationship. Maybe toned down just a bit, but it's basically that relationship. Because, you know, they aren't really close yet. They aren't close, they aren't connected, they've never really interacted with each other. And their personalities just do not match. So they kind of end up ticking each other off whenever they're around, for an extended period of time. Like, yeah, they're family and all, so they'll be nice to each other every now and then, but they don't feel like it yet. To Ben, Gwen is just another person in his life. A person who reminds him of everything his immediate family wants him to be. And likewise, Gwen sees how relaxed and carefree Ben is, and is jealous of the way he can just be himself whenever he wants. So, yeah. You guys see where I'm going with this, right? Like, you guys see the path. You see the destination I'm taking with these characters. Please say yes. So they're happy, they're getting to the camp, they're having fun. Also, there's a space fight in outer space, you know. Aliens are killing each other up there. We have Vilgax's ship chasing Shileen's ship, except it's not exactly Vilgax chasing her. No. Vilgax monitors the situation from light years away, talking to the current captain of the ship while raging a war of his own. So, if the captain isn't Vilgax himself, then who is it?
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
Preparing the
malware.
It's Malware, guys! From Omniverse! Showing up now! It's Malware! Look at Malware! I like Malware. Yeah, I didn't want to use a character as big as Vilgax so early on. Like, since you know, I'd feel like I was rehashing things from the original series a bit too much. And with just a few tweaks to his story, Malware can fit this so perfectly. Like, the most perfectly. You see the vision, right? You see the vision? I'm seeing the vision. Do you see the vision? But look, don't worry. Shh, it's fine. Squidface will remain an ever-looming threat on the horizon for a good while. But for now, Ben will have to contend with Malware. Like, come on, it's Malware! He's one of the best villains from later in the franchise. A corrupted galvanic mechamorph, one of Ben's own aliens. That's going to be awesome to see. Especially in an era where Ben will actively be using Upgrade a lot. And Malware is so fun, with his single-minded focus on revenge against Azimuth and the rest of his kind. And the way I can kind of imagine Vilgax taking advantage of that. Promising Malware revenge in return for his servitude. Now, for Vilgax, he's on a mission to retrieve the Omnitrix, Azimuth's greatest invention to use against Azimuth. And so, the two mighty warships disable each other, with Malwares being stranded in the Arctic, with both the ship and the mechamorph sustaining heavy damage that will require time for them to recover. And the ship, holding the Omnitrix, however, falls to the earth in a fiery heat. There is no ejection this time. The Tennyson family, now camping out in the wilderness for the night, suddenly finds themselves under a massive hailstorm of debris. Max and Gwen are cut off from Ben as they all try to find shelter. As the ship crashes down deep in the woods and things calm down, Ben finds himself stumbling towards it unknowingly. So obviously, he's shocked by the appearance of an alien spaceship. But he's even more shocked when a figure, distinctly female, stumbles out of it. She holds an orb in her hands, and mumbling incoherently, something, Magister X, something. She's bleeding profusely and falls. Ben, despite everything, catches her in her arms. She says something more in an alien language, stuttering, staring into Ben's eyes specifically. She holds the orb up to Ben, almost beggingly, before her hands fall. The orb slips from her hands, and she dies in Ben's arms. Yeah, that's a lot to process for a 16-year-old. Especially as Ben lays her down in shock. It's only the beeping from the orb that alerts him to its existence once again. He reaches out. It opens, and the Omnitrix finds its host. So we've spent a lot of time detailing these characters, haven't we? And I'll admit, on a basic principle, I've been very conservative with my changes to the characters. Sure, all these changes do provide a very important purpose of giving this comic its own tone outside of the original series and reboot. However, at the end of all of it, I want to keep the origin and the core of these characters mostly intact. I may suggest more visceral and mature changes and themes, but I want this comic to still be Ben 10. And when you think of Ben 10, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? It's the fun, lively characters who all bounce off each other so well. The stories that manage to stick with you for the rest of your life. These are the things that make Ben 10, Ben 10. And so, while I want to tell a new imagining of the story, with new interpretations that may or may not work for some people, there are sacred aspects that need to stick around. Like the aliens, of course. Now, when it comes to the aliens in the watch, I'm going to keep it simple. The original 10 will remain. Of course, because of how iconic and diverse they are, but also because I don't want to just make this list of my preferred alien set. Believe me, I would want to change it up for the sake of something new and fun, but this is an area where I feel showing restraint will have better results in the future. That means we'll start off the series with Heat Blast, Forearms, Wild Mud, Diamond Head, Accelerate, Gray Matter, Upgrade, Ghost Freak, Ripjaws, and of course, Stinkfly. And as time goes on, we'll obviously add new aliens to the mix, as well as returning favorites. When and in what order will the new aliens come in? No one knows! That's what makes the aliens so fun to mess around with. You just don't know. You don't know when the perfect alien will present itself at the perfect time. So, we have issue 1 planned out. The Omnitrix falling into Ben's hands, an unseen alien war in the stars, and the villains being somewhat established, but this video can't just be an issue by issue breakdown. I'd rather get to writing scripts than making individual plot synopsises. Even though I'll probably have to do it in that order. Whatever. So overall, what's this comic about? Because telling a story is one thing. Telling a story with a point is an entirely different one. What will I do to the characters I haven't mentioned yet? Because you can't have Ben 10 without iconic faces like Kevin 11, Charmcaster, Azimuth, or Generator Vilgax! Yeah! Also art? Because art is borderline the most important thing about comics. Hell, not even borderline, it is the most important thing! Any writer worth their salt will tell you the same thing. So we have these 3 questions to answer. The point of the comic, the characters, and the art. So welcome my friends, as we travel into the unknown and discover why the Ben 10 comic should exist. Yeah, we're about 11 minutes in, only halfway through the script, and I'm only just now doing the title drop. How are we feeling now, folks? So to go in order, the point of the comic. It should go without saying that I'm a pretty big Ben 10 fan. I've seen all of the original, and I respect the reboot for what it is. So when it comes to a comic book, of course I want it to exist. I love any and all new Ben 10 media, especially in this drought of nothing fans are experiencing. However, just because I want it doesn't justify its existence. That, my friends, would have to be the contents of its story. Can we do this right, and have a narrative that's unique and special enough to stand on its own? To answer this, I look at 2 very special franchises: Transformers and Ninja Turtles. I bet not a single person watching this right now can count how many different interpretations and spin-offs of the Transformers or Turtles there are. Over the near 50 years both franchises have been around, there have been a ludicrous amount of different interpretations, each one unique in their own right, taking past and new inspirations to craft original stories that have gone on to be incredibly successful and even iconic. So at the very least, we know that it can happen. That it is possible to reimagine Ben 10 for a new medium, for a new and an old audience. To capture that audience, we need to give them something different yet familiar. I've already teased that in the theoretical plot synopsis of issue 1. Seeing as Eileen, a decently memorable character from the original series, died trying to give Ben, actually Max, the Omnitrix sets a tone and a standard. It's a tragic death, not played up for the spectacle or for the shock factor, but to help this story stand out. To give it a weight the original series didn't really have until Grandpa Max's sacrifice in Alien Force. Also, as I'm writing this, I'm noticing that this scene of a dying alien giving a weapon of ultimate power to a brown-haired, cocky, yet kind-hearted human is literally the origin of Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. Which is pretty funny considering...
Done, huh? Thanks for the tip.
That. It's funny because of that. Tangent aside, the point of this Ben 10 comic would be to take everything that worked and didn't work from the various iterations of Ben 10 so far, and build upon them with foresight and hindsight. I don't want to say it matures the source material, because big chunks of Ben 10 were all very mature as is. But I am trying to lean more into that tone while keeping the humor and the wit of Ben 10. I'm interested in exploring an older Ben 10 who's capable of recognizing the responsibility put on his shoulders, yet doesn't have the life experiences to take it seriously just yet. He's someone who loves pretending to be a hero, but now has to learn how to actually be one. It's a reinvention of his development, refined to be more consistent with the story from start to finish. And I would love to take the same approach to other characters, taking their standard development from the proper series and remixing them to fit new circumstances. One huge remix to try to make the best story I possibly could with them. And since we're talking about characters anyway, what's up with them? See, I can do segues sometimes too. Anywho, I've been stalling long enough. Kevin 11. But first, listen here. I ain't gonna go into incredible detail cause, well, who knows? I might actually get to do something with this concept someday, so no spoilers for you. So Kevin is already one of the series' best characters. As a villain, an anti-hero, and then as a full-on hero. So it's kind of hard to approach him in a new way, considering how amazing he's been handled in the series proper. However, it isn't impossible. The reboot actually had terrific ideas to reimagine Kevin for that show, so I think it's fine to take some inspiration from that. I would like to explore Kevin's downfall to the brink of pure insanity, time after time again, before eventually putting him on the path to redemption. A character who walks the line of being unforgivable, and if they can ever make the choice to not cross it. Now I won't say too much more about Kevin, but just you know, I have ideas. I have a lot of ideas, okay? And as we know, there's plenty more I could discuss. So many more. But the one I want to really talk about to end this section off, Vilgax. Opinions may vary, but to me, Vilgax is the Ben 10 villain. Even despite taking a heavy backseat to others later in the franchise, Vilgax remains as the iconic villain of the franchise. He's this series' Megatron, a villain who's so larger than life and evil that no other in the franchise could ever dream of having the same level of impact or menace. So of course, he's going to be a bit of an amalgamation of all the Vilgaxes we've had over the years. Instead of being forced into predicaments where he's either very far in the backseat or right up there on the front lines, Vilgax is now a general, a leader, a dictator, a tyrant, waging a war against the entire universe, one that he is winning. A true warlord of unmatched military might. Which is why he isn't after the Omnitrix himself. Yet. For the first part of the series, he sees the Omnitrix as more of a formality towards the inevitable. Just another weapon of mass destruction to add to his arsenal before he eventually takes over the universe anyway. Of course he still wants it because he doesn't want it to be used against him, but there's not really a point when he's already winning. So why not send malware out to get it? Yeah, send him to go get the groceries. It wouldn't be until much later that Vilgax would finally have a reason to go after the Omnitrix himself. No spoilers for that though, because again, I have ideas. And that'll be where I'll stop with Vilgax. So, before we move on to the next and final category, I have a confession to make. Generator X, not a cheeky reference to one of my favorite childhood cartoons. I would like for him, and his world, to be a legitimate part of this comics universe. Because what's a comic these days if it doesn't spawn off a universe full of vastly different characters, stories, and settings? Hell, let's go all in and snag Zack Saturday too. Hey, y'all know Kai? I think she could have a badass book to herself. Damn! Why just her? Why can't Gwen have a series too? The Plumber Helpers? Anyone? Galactic Enforcers, people! Chapter 3. The Art. So right off the bat, this is the hardest category yet, mainly because how can you get the style of a comic down without any real idea of the artist you'd be working with? Well, while I wouldn't be able to go into specifics, I can say what my own preferred style would be. First of all, we need bombastic energy. We need the pages and layouts that slap you across the face and refuse to go unnoticed. Someone who doesn't mind getting experimental with both layouts and is more than capable of drawing so many different body types doing the sickest shit ever. So already I could probably name a good dozen comic artists that could fit this bill. But a lot of that is wishful thinking. Unless an artist actively volunteered, this would likely be the job of a newer or lesser known artist, which, to be honest, just fine with me! There are plenty of talented artists out there who just haven't had the chance to break into the industry yet. Hell, since this would be a highly detailed monthly comic, we'd probably need two artists, colorist, and a letterer are what's usually required, and all are integral. At the end of the day though, we need a team of creatives dedicated to making the best product they can. People who will always bring their A game to the table. To bring this video closer to an end, what I want to make with this Ben 10 comic is a comic that's filled to the brim with passion and love. Passion for these characters, love for the medium of comics, and a desire to make amazing stories for both. Ben 10, even after 5 completed TV series, still, to this day, has so much potential for new stories. Whether they be brand new or tweaked versions of what came before, the potential is there and it's blinding. And one of these days, I'd love to help one of these versions come to life. Especially the comic book that should exist. Thanks for watching, you beautiful people. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Jace, signing off.